Let's talk about resellers going back to jobs. No, it's not gonna go the way you guys think it's gonna go. This is a big topic. It's a big topic because, you know, those times where someone would put something on social media and the comments will take from it whichever thread, I guess, resonates with them, sometimes almost to the exclusion of whatever's in that post. And that's just a part of conversation. If you see yourself picking a thread and running with it, that's how tangents happen. Think about a dinner conversation where someone talks about their work and then talks about a colleague, and then so you've got work and colleague, two threads, and then if people don't relate to the work, they'll relate to the colleague. And then very quickly it becomes a complaining session about toxicity of a workplace or what you're allowed and not allowed to say. And then someone will say something was said, and then you'll go, oh, another thread. Yeah, that's inappropriate. You shouldn't have said that at work. That's very much a part of human nature to pick the threads that we relate to. It's a relatability issue. When I'm watch resellers, or actually any entrepreneur, talk about their decision to go back to full-time work, it's interesting to watch how the comment sections can be very divided. I understand why it happens. I don't like that it happens, and I want to speak to that aspect of it. And here's what it is. The comments usually get divided into two categories. There'll be the people who will say, if you were never going to succeed, in parentheses, if you were never going to succeed, you shouldn't have tried to tell us how to do things. That's the main gripe with that half. It's, how dare you lead us on? And there are some channels that don't intend to lead on, but somehow end up inspiring nonetheless. YouTube is a platform, and platforms are elevated above the ground. And by that nature, even if you don't intend to inspire someone or to sell a dream, you inevitably end up doing that anyways. And before you tell me off for my choice of the word sell, YouTube takes attention. It costs attention. So when an audience spends time and attention and emotion and even thought after, there's discussion, there's the sharing of content, there's the constant triangulating. You cannot tell me that YouTube audiences do not watch videos from a creator over a period of time and don't spend time afterwards going, here's the progression. There's a journeying. Journeying with somebody isn't just blindly following. It's mentally and emotionally triangulating a story even when the video is no longer playing. For you creators out there, if you feel like you only take up 10 minutes of someone's time every week, think again. Your 10-minute video every week takes up hours because you're in the back of someone's head trying to figure out if what you do makes sense for them, not just to them. It's a complex thing because ultimately, if somebody is coming to YouTube to learn something, to discover something, to have some sort of ignition moment, they're really looking for inspiration, whether they admit it or not, right? It's the humility that makes them admit that they're looking for inspiration, but it doesn't change the fact that they are. And so when you get that half of people who say, how dare you lead us along? How dare you consider yourself an expert? It really comes from a place of disappointment and frustration that the creator has failed them in that respect. Then you have the other half that wish the creator well, because that's the nice thing to say. That's actually the part that is, I suppose, the easier part to understand. Most people are taught to, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So if they're going to say something, it'll be something nice. It'll be something like, you didn't fail. You did well. Thank you for all your videos. Thank you for all your effort. when I look at both those camps, I put it together. First thing I'm going to say is the only response really should be thank you for trying on my behalf. If I watch someone do exactly what I do, I'd be bored and I wouldn't be engaging. You've given me, if I watch you, you've given me something to chew on, something to triangulate when I'm not thinking about anything else. And if you've tried on my behalf and you've failed, you've still taught me something. And for that, thank you for trying on my behalf. I'm not just talking to the resellers who have gone back to full-time work. I'm not talking about any entrepreneur, anyone that I've watched in the past that decided to put in effort into creating content to document the journey. Thank you for trying on my behalf. Thank you for showing me what you did that worked and didn't work. Thank you for, even if you showed me a half picture, thank you for giving me enough to work with so that I could go, does this apply to my circumstance? Does it not? Could this apply to someone else in a different circumstance? Is it closer to you? This is the triangulating process that we go through, and it can be a positive one for growth and self-improvement. And I think it only becomes negative when the triangulation is done in a investigative sort of manner to tear down the creator. And that toxic triangulation does happen on social media. People going, they must be funded by their parents, or they must, have been born into wealth, or yeah, of course they can do that, they have no kids. That kind of spirit exists, and it's not helpful, and it's very much hell-bent on destroying the integrity of a creator. My message to creators who experience that, I've experienced that, just ignore them. When you recognize where it's coming from, it's not intended to be helpful. Take from it, I guess, the lesson that these people will always exist. As a fellow creator, I also recognize that any endeavor that is documented takes effort. I'm spending time creating this video to provide context. This context doesn't benefit me. This doesn't help my business in any way, at least not in the short term. This video isn't going to lead to more sales. This video isn't going to tidy up this space. This video may potentially help my brand, to help you understand how I see the world, but there's no guarantee that you'll want to then deal with me going forward. This is very much just me having a say on human beings. I wanted to talk about this because it keeps coming up. Whenever someone tries something and then they fail, it doesn't matter. And I think because YouTube makes it so public, whenever it comes up, people go, aha, I knew it. I'm like, you don't know anything, really. No. You've just watched someone try something and it didn't fit with their circumstances. And everyone's circumstances are different. If you try and make sense of a business venture on the numbers alone, and it's headed for profitability, but relationally you are married to someone who cannot take that risk or doesn't know how to take that risk, they may become the kind of person who can take that risk in 5 years' time. But if in 5 years' time you learned that about your partner when the business fails 5 years before, it's not fair to them to say, damn it, we could have, because you couldn't have. Transformation, human transformation takes time. Evolution takes time. And whenever you rush that process, it always comes at a cost. And the easiest cost to incur at the time, easiest cost to allow to happen, sorry, it's not the easiest to incur, but it's the easiest to allow to happen, is the relational cost. And oftentimes, we admire people for taking risks too. There's this really interesting story that Kevin O'Leary talks about. He's the guy on Shark Tank, and he tells this story, whether true or not, where he's doing some keynote in a college, and a guy runs like a several $1 million software business from his dorm. I'm probably butchering the story, but the point being is it makes a lot of money. And his fiance says, if you don't stop this, I'm not gonna marry you. And then obviously the whole room wants to hear the answer, and Kevin's answer is, which one's harder to replace? which of course the intention of the reply is to say the business is harder to replace than the fiance, because, and then the comment section under that video, people are like, yep, now everybody knows this guy's going to be single soon. He's got a target on his head. Every girl wants him now. Of course, on the numbers, it makes sense, but there's still the willingness to incur that cost, because ultimately, if someone's asking that question, that's not an easy cost to incur. And I think that's something that, as an audience to a creator, we don't bridge that gap enough. And I really want us to bridge that gap. Because oftentimes when we you know what, I'm not going to speak for all creators, I'm just going to speak for me. In creating a YouTube channel, it became clearer and clearer over time that the main reason for it was to find people that I would want to work with. It was to find a community. A year or so later, we've created the Meaningful Hustle, which is essentially the community of side hustlers who can share a space together and support each other. Because for the most part, whenever we get to work on the thing on top of our jobs, the rest of the family is asleep and nobody really knows how we're tracking. And really, we only get asked once we break, once we get tired. And the question usually that we get asked is, are you sure you want to keep going? Which is not the question we want to hear. The thing we want to hear is, how can we support you more? How can I help you make time for this? But unfortunately, that doesn't happen because the progress isn't being tracked at home. And I think that's, for a lot of people, whether it's trying to combine this reselling thing, which is what I do, selling stuff online at home, with then the effort of making videos as a creator, to now then also managing a community of people like me, who then have to face the backlash of, this person isn't worth watching because they're not making it work. The fact is, they're trying. And there's a gap. This dissonance really needs to be less, because someone's trying on your behalf. And the only response I feel should be, thank you. Thank you. If you find yourself, I suppose, needing inspiration, and if you find yourself as an audience member needing, just to be inspired, here's what I do, because I too am an audience member. I too seek inspiration from those who have tried things that I have not. What I do is I watch a bunch of different channels together, and in combination, I try and work out what makes and doesn't make sense. I know it's not a zero-sum game, which means it's not a case of if this then that with human beings, because human beings are complicated and we're complex. And too many factors go into making someone the person that they are at any given day. But you can get a clue. And I'm hoping that with that clue, I become more empathetic to times when a particular creator actually struggles, to rather than insist that it must be fake, to maybe acknowledge that it could be real. I remember when a fellow creator got a backlash for having makeup on whilst sharing a vulnerable moment. And to cop backlash for wanting to have standards whilst sharing a vulnerable point, for people to say those two things shouldn't be able to exist. It's like, it must be fake because makeup was put on. To me, that blew my mind. I'm like, no, people have standards of presentation. If my child came home to me and had everything, looked presented, but had a moment of pain and cried, I don't expect them to be in shambles before they do it. You know what I mean? It's real. It's more likely to be real than not. And so, to the corner of the community, to the corner of the internet that insists that it must be fake because it comes from a place of wanting to destroy and wanting to tear down. Whatever you're going through, I'm sorry that that's happening to you, that it has to come out on the internet in a comment section. And it sucks. I hope you find someone who will listen to you, and I hope that you find a community that will lift you up, because if the only way to, I guess, heal that pain is to take it out on a comment section on a video, because you think that it doesn't hurt somebody, it does. And I'm sure you don't enjoy that either. Every time I've said a bad thing on the internet, I've immediately felt bad afterwards. And then it's combating the pride of taking the comment down because I've already said it. I'm hoping that that's kind of what you go through too. And it's okay to take it down. The internet forgets after a while. But I guess the hurt we cause doesn't. So hurt less, find more people to listen to you. There are many good people on the internet who will listen to you. I think that's really the takeaway message here. Like as I said before, this whole thing of creators documenting and leaving, it's a complex topic. It's a big topic. It's not as straightforward as it failed, they failed. They have tried on your behalf, my behalf, and they have just decided that the thing that they tried doesn't fit anymore. And maybe the joy of documenting something will come back, and they will document whatever it is that they're doing instead. Who knows? There's no real way to end this topic. It's an ongoing discussion, I guess, and I encourage you to have this discussion with members of your community, with your viewership, with the creators that you feel connected to. I'll end on this. Every time I've had a chance to work with any sort of creator or engage any sort of audience, I've noticed two things. The first thing is that I'm never short of creators to work with. And the reason being is because the internet is so vast. There's so many to pick from that you don't have to feel. I have never felt like if I don't work with a particular creator, my internet is doomed to never grow. And in that respect, the second thing is, what I've noticed is, depending on the creators that I choose to work with, it has also shaped the audiences that I have resonated with. And when I look at the Meaningful Hustle and who is within that space, I can safely say that I have made really good choices with the creators I've chosen to work with, because there's been a synergy amongst those audiences as well. So likewise, if you find yourself struggling to, as an audience member or as a creator, to find a fit on the internet, I can assure you that it's a vast and beautiful and plentiful space. Be yourself and keep trying. You'll eventually find your people. I'll end it there. Thanks for listening, and like and subscribe, I guess, if you haven't, to this channel. I know not all of you do. And if you'd like to be part of our community, the Meaningful Hustle, the links all over this channel. Until next video, take care, and be kind.